All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining us today. This webinar is focusing on Heartland Regional Genetics Network's new microsite. So that is going to be the focus of our conversation. We will talk a little bit about the microsite and its creation, how we got started on that idea, and then we'll get into the demo of it. And at the end, we will have time for questions. But please feel free to go ahead and use the chat, the Q&A section to enter any questions that you know you're going to have or as they come up, and then we can take those at the end. So that's one of the housekeeping items. The other thing to know is that we will be sending out a link to the recording in an email, and the link will remain available on the website, so that will be going up on the website as well. All right, so to give you an idea about how that we started out on this journey of creating the microsite, I was involved, not at the very beginning, but pretty early on. I'm a genetic counselor. That's what I do as a career, as my profession. But I worked with Heartland to help develop the microsite. And what we were trying to do was meet a need that had been expressed to our Heartland team, that families and patients were hoping to have a place where they could go to look for different resources that had to do with different aspects of genetic conditions or walking through the genetic evaluation process, support information. And they wanted this in varied formats, and they wanted it to be vetted. They wanted to know that it was reliable. I'm sure if any of you have gone through that, looking for information online, when you just go on Google or a browser and you're just looking, doing a cold search, you can come up with a lot of stuff, and sometimes it's hard to know how reliable it is. You have to look for hours before you find what you're looking for. We were hoping to have a place that would keep these materials more concisely, and that patients could have confidence that it was a good resource, that it was accurate, and it was giving them the information they were looking for. They also wanted this resource to be able to be shared easily. They wanted to be able to save resources for long-term use and then share those particular libraries or lists of resources with other family members or support care team, maybe with educators. So that was another need that they were hoping might be met. And so we have developed this tool. I do think it meets those goals, and hopefully in the future it'll meet some other goals. Maybe you have other goals that you'd like to see it meet. Maybe that's something we can talk about in the Q&A, but that gives you a little bit of the background. So we've started to, and this is going to still be a continuous process. We want to vet more resources and add them in the future, but we have a good tool right now that you can get started on. So what you're seeing here is our Heartland Regional Genetics Network page. This is the home page. If you wanted to use the Resource Center, you're going to come to this drop-down menu here. You might want to take a look at the tutorial. So we do have a lot of information about how this site works. And again, we will have the recording here eventually, so people can watch this demo and the recording. But it will give you everything you need to know about the little icons that we have, what they mean, how to use the favorites aspect, which is the shareable list, and a way to store long-term your resources that you prefer. The first thing I want to point out is that you are able to use the Resource Center without having a login, but you will not be able to access the favorite option if you're not logged in. So that's something important to be aware of. So if you go to the drop-down menu, select the Resource Center, you're going to come to the page. If you're not logged in, you're not going to be able to save anything to favorites. It's going to look slightly different. So what you'll first want to do if you've not created an account is to create your account. If you're wanting to have a favorites page and shareable resources, have a place to save those resources long term. And to do that, you'll select the created account. You're going to create a username. You're going to enter your name and your email and submit it. You will get an email that will prompt you to confirm your information, and then you should be able to log in. You can select the login button it's going to take you to the same screen, and you will have an existing account, and you can log in. All right, and you know that you're logged in whenever you have this menu that goes across the top. So it's a black menu, it'll say howdy, and it has your username, and that's how you know you're logged in. So we're just gonna go back to the Resource Center now that we're logged in. We're gonna take a look here at the main page. So this is the main page of the Resource Center. There's a couple of different ways that you can search information here, and that was purposeful because different people may have different reasons or indications that they're coming here to search our resources. Maybe they know something very specific that they're looking for, and so they can use the keyword here. Maybe you want to know about a specific condition or genetic counseling, and you can search that, and it will bring up different resources that have that as a keyword. Some people may know where they're at along the way of the genetic evaluation process, and maybe they don't know a specific question yet to ask or a specific thing that they're looking for information about, but they're just wanting to get an idea. If I'm in pre-test time period, what do I need to know about the genetics evaluation? So you can select that here on our map. We liked the map because it's a really good visualization to help everyone understand and remember that genetics is not necessarily a one-time visit, that you might come back to genetics multiple times. Maybe it's because there's a diagnosis, maybe it's because there's not a diagnosis. But many people might be coming to or accessing genetic counseling or genetic evaluation at different points in time, even within the same family. You can also, we have the same little markers set here on the side menu, so you could use those as well. And we have common resources, what we selected as some of our most common resources here at the bottom. So maybe that gives people a good starting point. So let's just create a scenario and follow it. So let's say that I am going through genetic evaluation soon. So I want to take a look at, I don't really know what I need to know yet. I just want to take a look here and see what there is to know or to hear about. And so you can see if you take a look at these individual resources and the blocks or the squares, it's going to tell you what is the format of that particular resource. So this one is going to be a podcast or an audio file. It's something you can listen to. Here we also have who might benefit from this particular resource. So it's been flagged that both patients and providers might benefit from this resource. We have intention in the future to upload into this resource center resources that might be more provider focused or might be more support focused or like education, like educator focused. Right now, everything that we had in here was brought in with the intention that it was at least very appropriate for patients and focused to an audience of patients or patient families. So this is what the synopsis square looks like for an individual resource. It will also tell you the name of the resource and give a brief description. So that's helpful to kind of know what you're getting into. Maybe it looks like it initially like it's something that might be helpful, but as you read the summary, it's not exactly what you're looking for. If you decide you want to take a look at it, you can click on the resource. And there's some things that we can do here. We can actually go and listen to the file by selecting this button. We can add this to our favorites by selecting here. So I'm going to do that. Now what it did is it took me to that was my favorites page. Apologize. Try that one more time. We can add it to our favorites here, and then it will go to our favorites page. So now we have listened, we have added it to our favorites. You can actually remove it. Maybe you accidentally selected that you wanted it to go to your favorites. We could remove that. You could share it here as an individual resource. That can be shared to an email so that you can send that out to somebody. It could be shared to a social media site. I think it links out to Facebook or to Twitter, for example. But here is the full description. And then there are related resources that might be of interest to you at the bottom. Okay, so let's say we want to go back. We want to take a look at another area of the resource here. I want to see something that I can read. So let's take a look here at this one. So I could select the resource here and read it. I could add it to my favorites. It's actually already on my favorites. I could remove it if I want, or I could share it. So each of the different resource squares you can interact with in this way. As I mentioned on the main menu, there are different ways to search. So maybe we want to search genetic counseling, and you could peruse through, see what you're interested in. Maybe we're interested in this one. And let's say I've added a number of things to my favorites. And so now I want to take a look at my favorites page. And I want to see the resources that I've started to compile. So now in my favorites, this is now my personal library, so to speak. So it will save those resources that you liked, that were relevant to you in that moment. And you can actually share that whole list instead of individually sharing each resource. And you do that by selecting the share button here, and it would create an email. And then you would be able to send that email to whoever you want. Maybe you want to send that to a family member. Maybe you want to send it to your child's therapist. Whatever whoever you're trying to share that list with, you can share that. All right. So that is one of the uses of that favorites page, is not only does it save the library long-term for you, but you can share the entirety of that page. Something that we're looking to do in the future is to have multiple favorites pages. So let's say you have more than one family member that you are caring for, or that's, that you're doing information research about here, and they have more than one condition, or they're at different points in the genetic process, and you want to have an individual My Favorites page for each of them. That is one of the things that we hope to be able to have available in the future on this tool, and then that way the resources or your library list can be shared separately. Instead of all together. So that is something to come. As I also mentioned, we do hope to have more resources on here that are provider focused, advocate focused. And so then you could actually filter by selecting one of these, either the patient option only or the provider only, and it will filter the resources out by audience appropriateness. So that's something to come in the future. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, we do intend to continue to add to the resource center in the future, showing more vetted resources. But our intention really is to continue to add resources that are reliable, that also will be inclusive in their nature, and that have various modes of being able to interact with the information. So that is our little demo on the Resource Center. I'd like to take some time now to answer questions that you might have, or even hear other things that you have ideas about that you might hope we are able to support with this tool in the future.
So we have a couple of questions. One is how to reset our password if we have forgotten it. So I can help answer that. Right now, there isn't a forgot password button, but you're gonna have to email the email at the top and we'll reset your password for you. In the next iteration, which should be coming soon, we're going to have that button added.
Okay.
And then the next question is, when I log in, I'm not seeing my favorites tab, and I am not sure how to know I'm logged in. I get to the resource page where it says I'm logged in. When I click login, there's only a sign up section, no login boxes to add. Can you help me log in? So I believe, do you want to answer that one?
Well, you can go ahead if you know Mary, that's fine.
So
I think there are other places to sign in for other sections of our Heartland Regional Network. So I would make sure that you're going to the Resource Center specifically, and that you are using one of these links here, create your account or log in, or that you're going to the how to use our Resource Center and logging in there. But you should see this toolbar come across the top when you're actually logged in, and it will have a little profile button there. It has a drop down for various things like forms. But it should say howdy and then your username at the top right corner if you're logged in.
And then the next question is there a way to note on each individual item with a heart or star that you've saved it as a favorite? And
Yes.
go ahead.
So when you select, like I know I've got this very basic one in my favorites. So when I click on the link, it's not going to show it on this on the little brief description on the square, but when you click into that resource, it will say either favorite, meaning you have not added it to your favorites list, or it will say unfavorite, meaning it's already on your favorites list.
And then one other thing to note is if you do forget your password, if you go on the how to section, there's a reset your password there. So you can either email us, we'll reset it for you, or if you go to the how to section, there is right where there is a login, the steps to log in, there's a reset password there. And then this question, another goal that we have with this resource center is to fill gaps or address challenging areas, usually due to time, that occur in genetic counseling session. One example is to discuss the consent process with members from our community, with our partner communities. What else would you like to see? And
yeah, so that's definitely one that we are still working on. So there's not actually, we found some areas where there's not content out there. So we're going to have to create that content. So I do think that that's something ongoing. So the consent form for whole exome or whole genome, that consenting process is something that there's not a lot of great resources out there about. You can pull up those consent forms, but they're just as difficult to read through on our website if we put them there as they would be in a clinic. So we really wanted something that was more interactive for that. I think another area that we identified is that there's not a lot of great resources that talk about or explain either in video, audio, or great text format about variants of uncertain significance, which are the unclear types of test results that could come out from a genetic testing, especially if you're doing sequencing. And so we would like to have a resource available here that could help families understand what that type of result really means. And also the intricacies around that, because there are different populations in our society that are going to have a higher chance of coming back for that, or certain indications for testing that might have a higher chance of coming back with a variant of uncertain significance versus a very clear positive or negative test result.
And I think that's also a good question, you know, for anyone in the audience, if there's a resource that you have a hard time finding online. I think Heartland would love to hear what those resources are, so they can think about adding them to this resource center. those are all the questions we have so far.
Feel free to put more questions in there. Don't hesitate. Don't be shy.
So I think we're getting a lot of thank yous for you.
You're welcome. Thank you all for attending today. And I will say it was a really fun experience to work on this project for me personally. I learned a lot about what is out there and what's not out there from a patient perspective. So that was a little bit eye-opening. I think sometimes as genetic counselors, we don't realize where there are gaps in the resources all the time. So it's been a learning experience in many ways. I also learned a lot about technology. So, so thanks to Heartland for inviting me to be a part of this project. It's been wonderful.
And if anyone has trouble with their account, we'll put our email in the follow-up message, and so you guys can reach out to us directly.
And also, if you get down a week from now, or months from now, a year from now, and you're thinking, gosh, it would be really cool if this resource could be doing XYZ, like send us an email on the Heartland site. There's an email where you can just that heartlandgenetics@outlook.com email where you can give us that kind of feedback. And that would be very helpful because these tools are developed for you all, and we want them to be meeting your needs and be useful to you.
All right. Well, thank you all for attending.
Thank you.